I wanted to talk about today is navigating neurodivergent culture with our parenting, because this can be a really tricky one. We already know when we're parenting neurodivergent children that we do face a lot of harsh judgment and criticism. Everybody's got some advice to give us. Don't you just love it? That alone makes things really challenging. It's hard to tune into our intuition or how we feel about our parenting choices when we are constantly bombarded with messaging. And it's everywhere. It's in the media, it's family and friends, it's school, it's daycare. You sit down to watch TV at night and there's going to be a program where people are criticizing parenting. It happens 24/7. It happens. So imagine, I know you don't need to imagine, I know you will have lived it, trying to tune in to what you genuinely feel about a situation that you have in your own home and how you might like to handle it. By the time we start really thinking about reconnecting with our intuition, if we get there, there's so much to undo. There's so much conditioning to undo. And of course, then we have the issue of our parents or grandparents having their parenting conditioning going on, worrying and thinking that we're doing the wrong thing, and then imparting their wisdom or knowledge onto us. But by the time we get to that space where we have tried everything, and this is a really important point too. People don't parent their children differently just because they wake up one day and go, you know what, I just want to parent differently. I want to be different to everyone else, and I'm so up for that judgment and criticism. Please bring it on. It's not about that. It's about having tried everything first. Most of us go into parenting having learnt what we've learnt from society. And, a lot of people say, well, there aren't any books on parenting. Sorry, yeah, there are. There's lots of books on parenting. Are there books on parenting neurodivergent children? Are they written by neurodivergent people? Not often. That's changing. But we have tried everything first, right? We've tried everything, and it causes pain. It's not that our children aren't listening. It's not that our children are insubordinate or disrespectful because they want to be. The way that we're parenting, we realize isn't working for us because it's causing pain. It might look like a child not coming out of their room. It might look like a child self-harming. It might look like serious disconnection between a parent and child. They don't talk to us anymore. It might be us feeling completely anxious and stressed out all the time, impending or anticipating what the next situation with our child is going to be and how we might handle it. It might be that it's causing tension in our partnerships. It's not about not knowing how to parent. It's about having tried all the things we've been recommended and suggested and them not working. It is very real that professionals will give us a lot of advice as well, and books will give us a lot of advice as well, and it won't work. And for me, this is not a revelation. We are different individual human beings, and we all need different things. Parenting makes sense to be individualized and responsive rather than based on a generic framework and reactive. Conventional parenting is reactive. It's based on the child complying or not complying and the parent reacting to that. So an example of that might be, it's time to brush your teeth, and the child doesn't want to brush their teeth. We might threaten them with punishment or consequences, or we might reward them. And we very quickly realize in our neurodivergent families that reward systems, punishment, consequences, rewards, they may work, but they'll be very short-lived, or they may have other outcomes as well. So we come into parenting differently because nothing else has worked, or it has given us the desired outcome behaviorally, but our child is not happy or we're not happy. And I think this is really important to acknowledge. It's really important. We don't want our children to be unhappy. We don't want to be unhappy. So we don't want to be engaging any approaches that have that outcome. But again, outside of that is this constant judgment and criticism. When families are looking for simple answers or approaches or frameworks in how to parent neurodivergent children, I just want to say, to make it even more challenging, that there isn't one. There just isn't one. I don't think there should be one for any child or any family. I think that we all need to explore what works and doesn't work, use trial and error, and I think the notion of needing to be in charge can be problematic when raising neurodivergent kids. But inside of that needing to be in charge is a fear of losing control of our children, and inside of that is a projection into the future of who they will become rather than who they are right now. And so many of us, I tell you what, if I could get my time back with my children when they were little, I would do things so differently, and I don't want that for other families. I look at photos of my 10-year-old and I often feel a pang of sadness because I would have done things so differently rather than being in panic about her future all the time. I just wasted away those formative years with anxiety around who my children will become instead of who they are now, and enjoying them and embracing them. So it's okay to not panic if your children are autistic or ADHD or Tourette's or PDA. So the thing about parent intuition is that it is this direct energetic connection that keeps us connected to our children. And it is so fragile and so already worn thin when we're raising neurodivergent children because of the input from outsiders. It's kind of like a really tightly wound guitar string, and someone keeps plucking at it, and you can see that it's starting to unravel, and we know it's going to bust. But the good thing about intuition is that it's like a muscle, and you can exercise it over time and it gets stronger. It's there. It never goes away. We know how we want to respond to our children, but we come out of this system of being bombarded about how to parent, riddled with self-doubt. So much self-doubt. And aside from that, sometimes we're inside family systems where one parent will be practicing intuitive parenting or exploration of what works and doesn't work, and the other parent may not be on board with that. So we have this clashing all the time and some very confused kids. But sometimes what happens there is children will work out their relationship with each parent. They will work out who it's safe to approach for particular things and not so safe. But that intuitive responsiveness is so important. So last night I had a situation in our family home where in Melbourne we had an earthquake a few weeks ago, and it was terrifying. For me personally, it was really, really terrifying. And my 7-year-old, already highly anxious, but that situation just amplified the terror. And for many families in Melbourne raising really sensitive children, really anxious children, that may have been the first situation they've had where they've realised that their parents can't necessarily control everything that's happening, and that can be scary. When we realise as children that our parents aren't God or godly, that can, exacerbate our anxiety. So we've had some ongoing challenges since there, and that's okay. That's expected and that's normal in our family anyway. But what that means is my child needs more of me at the moment, which is also very rational. Needs to be connected to me more often. Needs to be in my bed. Needs me to be waiting in the bathroom when they're there. Needs me to be waiting while they're in the bath. Needs to hear my voice all the time. Just needs to know that I'm there all the time, and that's okay. Once upon a time, and I was thinking about this last night, once upon a time that would have infuriated me. And don't get me wrong, it is frustrating at times to be needed so much because I need space and time too. But once upon a time, I would have resisted and I would have felt fear that I was enabling my children by supporting them. And this is really important. I would have thought to myself, no, I'm being weak. They can go to the toilet without me. They'll be fine. I would have said that. No, you're a big kid. You can go to the toilet yourself. No, you'll be fine. And I would have appeared as though I was really confident about it because that's what I've been taught. Don't let them sniff out your fear. These are things that we say about raising children. Don't let them see vulnerability. Don't let them sniff out fear. Be the boss, be in charge. And I would have. I used to parent like that. And I would have heard my child sobbing and it would have broken me. And I would have then changed my mind and I would have given myself a hard time and others would have given me a hard time and I would have thought I'm failing my children because I can't get them to do what I want them to do. That whole thing is so sad. It's so sad. Last night we had a situation where we wanted to try sleeping in our own bed and it didn't work out. And so I said, okay, no worries. Let's get your stuff and you can hop in mum's bed. I wanted to watch an adult program on TV. My child said, Mum, I need you to leave the bedroom door open. I need to be able to see you at all times, which meant I wasn't going to be able to watch a program that was not necessarily safe for children. So that happened. Did I feel frustrated? Yeah, of course I did. I felt exhausted and frustrated and ripped off because nighttime is the only time I get to myself. But also, I remember what it's like to be that child. I remember what it's like to be so anxious. I remember what it's like to be so bloody terrified of the world and life and everything in it all of the time. To not have people support me or respond to me in a way that was nurturing because I didn't know. Nobody knew I was autistic. Nobody knew. I mean, we didn't talk about childhood anxiety then. We just saw children as little bundles of behaviour. We still do. When I wouldn't respond in what was deemed neuronormatively rational, then I would be disapproved of. And that's a form of societal ABA. That's a form of family ABA. That's not anybody's fault. That's how so many of us were raised. We were raised inside of families that were conditioned to raise us in that way. Some of us grew up in really horrible dysfunctional homes as well, and I'm not discounting that. But the reality of behaviorism just being the foundation of child rearing for so long now, it's rife. It's rife, and there's no space made for people to be responsive and nurturing to their children because this idea that we are weak when we do that, that is so abusive and gaslighting to families. People think that refrigerator mother theory went out the window a long time ago. It really hasn't. It's just been replaced with new language, being told that we need to be more firm, more consistent. They're just putting it over you. Oh, they know how to manipulate you, don't they? That stuff's gaslighting. Make no mistake about it, it's gaslighting. And it gets my cocky feathers up. Trust me on that. Our neurodivergent children are disabled children as well. And we are not responsible. We don't create disability. We don't. So it makes sense to be responsive and supportive to children when they're highly anxious. So last night, when I could hear my child sobbing in their room and wanting to be in my bed, I said, okay, no worries. And they stopped crying instantly and hopped into my bed. Once upon a time, I would have been like, oh, you're not sad. You just wanted to get what you want. Who doesn't want to get what they want? Who doesn't want to feel safe and loved and protected and supported? Honestly. And then there are people, because all of this is in my head when I'm making my parenting choices. You never forget the negative things that people say. It's there forever. It is a form of trauma. And then, the voices coming up, information out there that if you let your children sleep in your bed, they'll never get out of your bed. There'll be 40-year-old men still sleeping in your bed. My 23-year-old slept in my bed until their teens, and they travel the world on their own today. And they're autistic and PDA and ADHD. We don't know anything about who our children are going to be. We don't know anything about that stuff. And that stuff is for later. Right now, we get to enjoy our children and we get to explore our connection and our relationship with them. And we get to love and nurture and support them. When my children are upset, I respond to them. Sometimes I react. Sometimes I snap. Sometimes I yell. Sometimes I resist. I do. We all will. We're human beings. But this whole parenting approach that is ableist, that is parent shaming and blaming, and that is childist. Honestly, children are people. Children are people. They are not boxes of behavior. Behavior is an outcome. It's a communication, an expression, it's a need. It's okay for us to change our mind about things. We might have said 10 minutes ago, you know what? No, you're not watching your favourite show tonight. I'm really disappointed with how you've just spoken to me. This is something I find myself in the loop of doing. In the heat of the moment, when my child is struggling and I'm struggling and they're saying things to me that are triggering me, because this will happen, especially with PDAs. They'll go for the jugular. We do. We go for what hurts most to get our power back. So when my child's doing that to me, sometimes it's really, really hard to be responsive, and I find myself reacting and reverting back to that conventional parenting where I will say, you know what? You do not get to disrespect me like this. You are not watching your favourite program tonight. And I'll really mean it in the moment, but then later when I'm calm and I'm regulated and we've said sorry and we've had a cuddle, even if we haven't said sorry and had a cuddle, I remember, actually, my child's autistic and their favourite program is a really important part of their routine. And if I take away that really important part of their routine, they may not sleep tonight, or they may have trouble getting into bed. It is okay to change our mind. It's okay to say stuff in the moment, and it's okay to come back later and go, you know what? Yeah, I changed my mind about that. Last week, I said to my 7-year-old, we're not having movie night. That's what it was. Saturday night is movie night. We're not having movie night tonight. No, the way you spoke to me, it's always the way you spoke to me. The way you spoke to me, not okay. You're missing out on movie night tonight. And the sadness that I witnessed was so painful. And you know, my child is an incredible self-advocate, so incredible at letting us know how they feel and what their needs are. And they said to me, I feel like I can't be myself. They were crying, I can't be myself, or I get in trouble. I'm PDA, I can't help it. I can't help it when I say those things, Mum. I wish I could control my brain and body, and I can't. And I say those things, and I wish I didn't. And in that moment, so many times, so many of us are tempted to say, oh, rubbish. You can control what you say. Come on, that's not who you are. But I had to take a moment. I had to really pause. And this time I said, yeah, thank you for reminding me. I am really sorry. I just forget that this is really hard for you, and thank you for reminding me. And I'm not going to punish you for disability. I'm not going to punish you for being disabled, because that's the difference here. Are we responding to our child's disability, or are we punishing them for it? And I would never tell people how to parent. I would never, ever, ever tell people that what they're doing is wrong or right, because we all do things differently. But I know this. When our children feel heard, they feel safe. When our children are responded to and are supported, they feel safe. And that's so important. It's so important. I think I've been co-sleeping with a child the entire 23 years I've been a parent. I've co-slept, and I love it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I need space. And look, there are nights where I will be firm in my boundary around that, because I know if I don't get it, I'll snap. So that's something that changes things for me. If I know I'm really struggling and I need space, I do have to put my foot down around that, even if my child's not happy about it, because I am tuned into my capacity. If I snap, my child doesn't get the best of me, and it's horrible, and then there's remorse, and it's hard. It's hard when our own needs are not being met. Okay, beautiful folks, hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next week. Bye.